A very good morning and welcome to this country session titled Furthering Collaboration Between South Africa and Japan on Hydrogen and Ammonia. My name is Nzinga Kunta. I'm so pleased to be a facilitator today. Please may I ask His Excellency Noria Maruyama, who's the Ambassador of Japan from the Embassy of Japan in South Africa, to welcome us and give us context as well.
Hi, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this Japanese country sessions. My name is Noria Maruyama. I'm the ambassador of Japan to South Africa. Today's session, it will be a very interesting one. And because we will, of course, talk about the carbon neutral and for this green hydrogen, but the focus will be on the green ammonia. Why green ammonia? Why fuel ammonia? The reason is because Japan suffered a lot. Do you remember 2011? We are ravaged by the tsunami. And do you remember what happened to our nuclear power plant? Not only Fukushima, but the other nuclear power plant as well. We stopped them to check the security and so on, which means that we have no more energy coming from the nuclear at the time. What happened then? We need to supply the demand, and we are obliged to reactivate the coal power plant in Japan. But on the other hand, we have our strong commitment for the climate change, and our commitment is to reduce the CO2. And for this, starting from the academia and with the government and the business, we discuss a lot. We discuss which will be the way to go for Japan and for the carbon neutral, and also for the immediate way to contribute to the reduction of the CO2. And our conclusion or our solution is to make a good use of ammonia as a fuel. And this ammonia need to be green. So from green hydrogen to green ammonia, this is what Japan would like to share with our South African friends today. Japan do a lot of trial using the one of the biggest coal power plant in Japan to make putting together coal and ammonia. The percentage that we are doing now is 20% ammonia and 80% coal, but the result is quite amazing. So we would like to terminate this in Japan, but also we would like to continue to this kind of to support this kind of the trial to the country that wish to do so. I have, for example, as Malaysia, Indonesia, and now India, and in this continent, Morocco, raise hand to have this support from Japan for this trial to co-firing, because all those countries heavily dependent to coal power plant. Our solution is not to give the longevity to coal power plant, on the contrary, but we are more realistic. Even if we go to the renewable energy, coal power plant will exist, even the number will be declined, it will exist. What does it mean? It will continue to emit the CO2. So for this transitional period where we cannot eliminate 100% coal power plants, the need to reduce the CO2 is a real need. So co-firing with ammonia will support those needs, that especially to the countries that are heavily dependent to the coal power plant. When we're talking about the collaboration between Japan and South Africa, I think that South Africa as well, Japan as well, we are heavily dependent to these fossil resources. So today, I am very fortunate to have a very powerful Japanese delegation. In the beginning, I told you that after a tsunami, the government and the academia and the business talked together to find a solution for what to do. Today, Japanese government, and of course I am part of the Japanese government, but we have a pleasure to have Mr. Miyake from Japanese Minister of Economy and Trade and Industry. He is the author of what we call the green growth in Africa. Do you know that we have a Tokyo International Conference on African Development every 3 years? The latest one just had been done in August this year. And one of the important achievements this year, Green Growth Strategy, he will tell us how the Japan and Africa, especially South Africa, can be able to promote this. And after that, we have 3 important Japanese business people who will intervene. The first one is for the MHI, Sustainability Initiative. They will talk about the carbon neutral. The carbon, especially the way to go for the carbon neutral in the perspective from MHI groups. And Mr. Okumura, yes, will be the presenter. He is the Chief Executive Officer of Mitsubishi Power Africa. And then we need to have some concrete things as well, starting from the technical aspect, but also what we are doing right now. For this, Itochu is represented today by Ms. Natalie Davids, yes, and who will show you how things is going on. I'm talking about what we are doing for the co-filing in Malaysia. I think you have something to say on this as well. And of course, the project, this kind of the big project will not be a successful one if you don't have finance. So the last one will be finance capability with carbon neutrality, with all those ideas from Japan. Is Mr. Naoki Saida, the Deputy Chief of Johannesburg Representative Office to MUFG Bank, and will be telling us from the financial perspective. And today, I'm particularly honored to have Professor Aika, all the way came from Japan. And we are talking about fuel ammonia. He will talk about fuel ammonia because he is the leading figures in the academia of Japan, concerned not only Japan, in the world, about the fuel ammonia. So it's a very rare occasion to listen such an important person who are trying from the beginning how we can make a good use of fuel ammonia and how to cooperate with the business and how to convince government. And maybe this one was the most important one. But thanks to his effort, we consider that fuel ammonia will be the future. And we are tendency to say that fuel ammonia co-firing together and after the coal power plant, fuel ammonia will be not necessary. But I don't think that he is on this idea. Fuel ammonia is the future of our energy. And when thinking about the energy mix, one of the part will be fuel ammonia. So I close my remark here, and because we have a lot of interesting to ahead. So thank you very much for your participation, and I hope that this session will be a fruitful one for everybody for coming here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador. I think you've just helped me very much because I don't need to say much. I could actually just sit down and walk out for the rest of the session. Our next speaker, as you've mentioned, Yasujiro Miyake, who's the Director of Middle East and Africa Division from the Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry in Japan. Thanks so much for your time. Please make your way to the stage.
Good morning. My name is Miyake. I'm a director responsible for Middle East and Africa, and from METI, Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry, Government of Japan. I flew from Tokyo. My ministry is responsible for mineral resources, energy transition, as well as the industry as a whole, and I am responsible for African continent as an area. So with this background, I would like to share some of the Japanese perspectives and the policies. The thing is, I have only 15 minutes to cover this topic, so I shall try to be very concise as much as possible, and actually I should be very quick, very, very quick. So first I will talk about the next slide, please. So I will first talk about Japan's hydrogen policy. When it comes to the hydrogen, Japan is one of the leading countries in the world to the hydrogen policy. In fact, I would say Japan is the leading country when it comes to hydrogen. As early as in the year 2017, Japan has adopted the National Hydrogen Strategy, which is the first time ever in the world for our country to adopt a strategy on hydrogen. And that was followed by the year 2020, where my Prime Minister made their declaration on carbon neutrality by the year 2050. And at the same time, we developed the green growth strategy, where we are targeting increasing the volume of demands and supplies in the year 2050 of 20 million tons. So increasing the volume by 10 times over the next 30 years. And at the same time, we are trying to reduce the cost over the 30 years to 1/5. So that's our strategy. And in 2021, we revised our strategic energy plan, and where we set the policy target of, I need the next slide. Sorry, it's not working. Okay. We set the target policy of the energy mixture in the year 2030 to have increased the renewables as well as nuclear, and thereby reducing the fossil fuels. And we introduced hydrogen and ammonia of 1% out of 940 kilowatt hours. So that's the hydrogen policy in general. And now I would like to look at the 5 strategic areas of hydrogen where Japan has their strategic technological advantages. And there are 5 areas. This is not working very well. So there are 5 areas like transportation, number 2 is power sector, number 3 is the industrial sector, and number 4 is production by electrolysis, and then number 5 is the hydrogen supply chain, and I will take one by one. And each sector, Japan has their technological advantages. The number 1 in the transportation sector, we already have in Japan, there are 7,400 FCVs, fuel cell vehicles. Not the EVs, not electric vehicles, not even the hybrid cars. It's the fuel cell vehicles, 7,400 in operation. And to have these FCVs, we need to have the infrastructure. We set the 178 hydrogen refueling stations, HRS, and the number 178, it's almost the same as the United States entirely, or even the European Union entirely, or even China as a whole. So you see, in Japan, we already have a substantive amount of infrastructure developed. And we also have the fuel cell trucks and fuel cell trains on the demonstration phase. So we are quickly moving forward. And the next sector, if I have the next slide, we have the power sector. Okay, we have the power sector. Again, Japan has been a world leader in hydrogen power generation technology, both large and small size turbines. So if you take, for example, the 500 megawatts is the large scale one, we already achieved in 2018 the hydrogen co-firing rate of 20%. In Indonesia, for example, the Mitsubishi Heavy Industries, MHI Japanese company, is converting the existing large-scale gas-powered turbine plants into the hydrogen burning. And they have the plans to start commercial operation of the world's first ever large-scale hydrogen-only fired power plant around 2025. And for the small size, 1 megawatt class, we already achieved in 2018 the hydrogen-only burning turbines, and now we are trying to improve the efficiency. And the next slide, number 3, the industrial sector. There are various ways to hydronize it out of the carbon, and one example is the hydrogen reductant steel making. In making steels, you need the reductant. Reductant is removing oxygen. And we currently use the cokes or coal. Of course, it emits the carbon dioxide, so we need to replace it with hydrogen. So we are now developing the technology for the hydrogen reductant steel making. Another way is to use the hydrogen as a heat source, especially the high temperature one. And there are huge possibility because in industry there are many furnaces, like melting furnaces, heating furnaces, or even steam boilers. So we need to hydrogenize it. And in fact, there are some Japanese companies already using the hydrogen as a heater, for example, in the auto parts industry, as well as the auto tires manufacturing. And in fact, even coffee beans can be roasted by hydrogen. And there is one company called UCC doing this. And in the 4th pillar, we have the domestic hydrogen production by electrolysis. We already have the very large-scale demonstration project in Fukushima. And there are 2 types of hydrolysis. The one is alkaline one using potassium hydroxide, and another one is PM1. It uses, the PEM refers to the proton exchange membrane or the polymer electrolyte membrane. And we have the large scale and the different types of electrolysis projects, and now they are trying to reduce it, reducing the cost even further. And number 5, I would like to talk about the hydrogen supply chain, in fact, how to move the hydrogen. I will talk about the liquefied hydrogen, and another is MCH, methyl cyclohexane. Actually, there are a third mode about the fuel ammonia, but I will touch upon it quickly. So number 5, global hydrogen supply chain. In fact, we have, again, recently, we have had the successful demonstration first ever in the world, most recently in February, to move the liquefied hydrogen. And in this project, we produced hydrogen in Australia from lignite, lignite, the brownish coal, and we liquefied hydrogen. And to liquefied hydrogen, it needs to be very, very cold. It's like minus 260 degrees Celsius below zero, so it's very, very cold. And that liquefied hydrogen in Australia, Hastings, was transported to Kobe, Japan. And it's 9,000 kilometers away. It took 16 days, and it crossed the equator. Now, crossing the equator reminds me of the impact happened in the global food market when the reefer vessel, the refrigerator ship of invention, enabled Argentina to export their frozen meat to the northern hemisphere. So you can imagine how impactful this successful demonstration by Japan was, the first ever in the world. And the second mode is MCH, methyl cyclohexane. Again, MCH is basically a toluene. So if you add the toluene with the hydrogen, it turns to the MCH, and later you can just separate the hydrogen from the MCH. Now, again, in the year 2020, Japan had successfully did their demonstration project of the international transfer using the MCH. And this time, we made the hydrogen in Brunei from natural gas. And we converted this the hydrogen to MCH, and then moved it from Indonesia to Kawasaki, Japan, and separated the hydrogen. This demonstration using the MCH, again, was the first time ever in the world successful. And with these backgrounds, Japan is trying to promote the kind of international arena, the platform to discuss how we can use the hydrogen. So we launched in the year 2018 what is called the Hydrogen Ministerial Meeting. It's HEM, and where the ministers and top executives from the industry gather together and discuss hydrogen society and the future initiatives. And they already have their what is called the Global Action Agenda Goals of 10-10-10. It refers to 10 million fuel cell systems, 10,000 hydrogen refueling stations in 10 years. And in the recent conference held this September, just this September, it was the 5th HEM 2022, they set the additional goal on renewable and low-carbon hydrogen production of at least 90 million tons by the year 2030. And in the South African context, we had the honor of having the message from Minister of Higher Education, Science and Innovation, Dr. Nzimande. And by the way, in this conference, the coffee roasted by hydrogen was served. And that's the hydrogen, and we will talk about the ammonia. Ammonia is, again, it's NH3, nitrogen and the hydrogen. So it doesn't have the carbon, so obviously it can be used, the fuel ammonia can be used as a zero CO2 emission fuel. And of course, it doesn't contain the carbon, but it does have the nitrogen. So it could emit the nitrogen oxide, but Japan has a technology to burn fuel ammonia without emitting nitrogen oxide. And that technology is long to cover, so maybe the professor can maybe cover this. But Japan has such technology not to emit NOxes or nitrogen oxides in burning the fuel ammonia. That's very important. And the fuel ammonia also can be used as a hydrogen carrier, and it can be liquefied at the moderate temperature of minus 33 degrees. So, and also, we already have the ecosystem in industry for using the ammonia, so it has another advantage. So ammonia, Japan is cooperating in the 4 pillars. One is the raising awareness, public awareness internationally. So Japan has jointly conducted a study with IEA, International Energy Agency, and published a report last year. And the key message was, ammonia is an effective measure for decarbonization of thermal power, and the emerging countries can utilize ammonia at low cost. So that's the public awareness part. And the second, we are promoting supply chain, and we are cooperating with energy-rich countries like North America, Middle East, Australia. Some countries are rich in natural gas, other countries are rich in green energy resources like solar and wind. And number 3, we are trying to encourage the usage of the fuel ammonia. And for that, we are collaborating with the, I'm sorry, the next slide, I don't have it. Actually, the Malaysia, Indonesia, India, and Morocco, that's introduced by my ambassador, so I skip it. But we are conducting the feasibility study of ammonia power generation for the realistic energy transition with these 4 countries, just introduced by the ambassador. And as a number 4, Japan is promoting as a platform for their fuel ammonia, and we held twice the conference on fuel ammonia. The first time was in October last year, and the second one was in September this year. And if I have this slide, okay. I'm sorry, this slide. In the last, the recent international conference on fuel ammonia, many ministers as well as the international governmental agencies like IEA gathered together virtually, and they released some of the results of their discussion and the MOUs. Now, so before I conclude, I hope I have not consumed much time. I would like to touch slightly about the African flavor. The thing is, this controller is not working very good. But the thing is, as Ambassador just introduced, we had held what is called the TCAT meeting. TCAT refers to the Tokyo International Conference on Africa Development, and I'm still getting at the next slide, and it's not working very well. Okay, and this one, please. Okay, so, and in TCAT 8 meeting held the end of August in Tunisia, Japan has committed various developmental instruments. Number 1, for example, the one pillar is the solving social issues, and where we have the J-Bridge project and J-Partnership project. In J-Bridge project, Japan hosts the matchmaking events for open innovation between Japan and African countries, African companies, and where in J-Partnership events, the Japanese government support the collaboration between the Japanese and the African companies. And pillar number 2, about the developing industrial human resources, we have published the initiative called AFIF. It stands for Africa-Japan Industrial Human Resource Development Initiative for the Future. So it's AFIF. And in AFIF, Japan has pledged educating 5,000 African young people, the 5,000 African young people on the vocational training, skill development, and higher professional education over the next 3 years. 5,000 African young people. And in pillar 3, we have the promoting green growth, and we have the JCM, joint crediting mechanism. And with African countries, we have 4 partner countries, namely the Ethiopia, Kenya, Senegal, and Tunisia. And number 4, we have some financial instruments. And I will skip it due to the time. Okay. And if I get the next slide, this is about the Green Growth Initiative, just introduced by my ambassador now. And I don't think I have much time to explain this, but in the TCAT 8, Prime Minister Kishida released this GGA initiative, Green Growth Initiative with Africa by Japan. And the 3 pillars are co-creation and the finance and the collaboration with international African organizations. And in this GGA, Japan has pledged $4 billion US of financial assistance over the next 3 years. $4 billion US dollars. And METI, my ministry, is to help Africa for the, developing their electric power and the mineral resources development and making use of the abundant green energy resources. And if I can successfully get back to my conclusion paper to conclude, in the South African context, in South Africa, at the moment, in Japan, we have already got the 160 Japanese companies doing operation in South Africa. And of course, South Africa, we believe, is the gateway to Africa. And of course, South Africa is the biggest economy in Sub-Sahara. So definitely, we believe cooperation with South Africa is the key for success. And I'm still struggling to get my slide for the conclusion. And okay, slightly moving. Okay, and so let me, to conclude, let me refresh our commitments once again that Japan will keep leading the global carbon neutrality, and Japan will stay. And Japan will stay as a front runner in the hydrogen technology. And in the South African context, we recently had the partnership forum in Tokyo this October, having the honor of getting the Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, Dr. Naledi Pandor, and at the same time, we held in Tokyo the 5th session of the Joint Trade Committee with the DIC, Department of Trade, Industry and Competition. So once again, let me refresh the Japan's commitment to cooperate with South Africa, and that concludes my remarks. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Please may I ask Mr. Naoki Okumura, who's the CEO of Mitsubishi Africa, to come and make their presentation.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Naoki Okumura, the CEO of Mitsubishi Power Africa. And thank you very much giving me this kind of great opportunity to introduce our MHI Group sustainability initiatives for carbon neutrality. Today, I'd like to explain a little bit our company's activities. So next, Sorry, something wrong. Oh yeah. Today I'd like to two items of our activities. The one is the MHI Group and vision for the carbon neutrality, and the second one is our initiatives and solutions for energy transition. Next page, please. Yes, thank you. So firstly, I would like to explain what is Mitsubishi Heavy Industries, and we founded in 1884. We had over 140 years histories and manufacturing so wide range of the product in relation to the social infrastructure at the land, at the sea, and in the sky, in the space. So from the turbine to the aircraft and the rocket we produced in 140 years. So next slide, please. So the left side shows the some forecast for energy consumption. The most social biggest challenge would be the large, how do we meet the large energy demand? The total energy demand will be decreased, although the population of the world will be increased. And out of the total demand, the electricity demand will be rapidly increased. The left-hand graph shows our projections based on the various kind of report. We, MHI, may think that some reduction of the CO2 emission will certainly decrease, but some certain percentage, we cannot reach some certain percentage. So at the end of 2050, some CO2 capture method should be required so that the world can reach the net zero world in 2050. So next slide, please. So under such circumstances, Mitsubishi Heavy Industries committed to the world that we will reach the mission net zero in 2040, 10-year advance than the global commitment. So in every category, in a scope of 1, 2, that is internal our MHI, and not only internal MHI, including supply chain, we will reach the net zero in 2040 as a leader of this decarbonization of this field. So from the next slide, I'd like to explain a bit more about initiatives and solutions for energy transition. We think, so next slide please. We think there are some 3 pillars for the decarbonization, mission net zero. The first one is the decarbonization existing infrastructure such as coal-fired plant here in South Africa. And the second pillar would be how do we build the hydrogen solution ecosystem. The third one is how do we capture the CO2 from the exhaust emissions. So I think the short term in decarbonization in existing infrastructure, but medium and long term, we need to build our hydrogen and CO2 capture system. So first, next slide please. So first, I'd like to start our decarbonization existing infrastructure. Next slide, please. So this graph shows some sample of decarbonization of existing infrastructure. The left side is the existing facilities, and so the right side, how much we can reduce the CO2 emissions. So we had so many countermeasures to reduce the CO2 emission, and all of the measures Mitsubishi Heavy Industries can provide. For example, there are top line, the coal-fired thermal plant, so many you have in South Africa, and if South Africa can utilize ammonia or biomass, then some certain percentage can be reduced. We had a already technology, and we can provide. We are ready to provide. So next page, please. So this chart shows our research and development schedule. How do we cope with such kind of requirement? For the hydrogen relation, we already almost in hand for the 100% hydrogen turbine in 2025 for the little bit smaller size and medium size of the turbine. And until 2030, we will reach 100% of the larger size utility purpose gas turbine. So the lower side is the ammonium. We are also same under this R&D situation, but we may reach our burning the ammonium on existing turbine on 2025, and also boilers until 2025. So next slide, please. So the next is how do we build the hydrogen system. So next slide, please. This slide shows some supply chain of the hydrogen link from the production to the end of use. We MHI had several kinds of technology, but not only MHI, but also some prospective partner we already have from the production and use. So next slide, please. This is one sample in Utah, in United States, from the renewable energy and electrolyzer that has around 220 megawatt, and produce the hydrogen and store the carbon in the rock, salt rock, and extract some hydrogen to the power. that is already started to production. Started to construction. Next slide, please. And not only the utilizing hydrogen, but also to transfer to the big city in the Los Angeles. So this project, we plan to utilize the hydrogen around 30% until 2025 and 100% by 2045. So the future has already started now. So next page, please. So this is our hydrogen park. We call it Takasago Hydrogen Park, and we will validate all steps of the hydrogen chain from the producing and utilizing. Okay, next slide, please. Not only hydrogen, but also we have ammonium value chain from the electrolyzer and CO2 capture and ammonia plant and transportation by the ships and burning the boilers and turbine. Not only hydrogen, we also have an ammonium value chain. So the next step, please. The last one is the how do we capture the CO2? Next slide, please. Yeah, from the capture to the utilization, all of the field we had technology capture and liquidation and transportation and utilizing fertilizer like this. Next slide, please. We already delivered our CCUS plant in the world, around 16 units all over the world. And 2 units is under the construction. And our process, we call it KM-CDR process, has top leader in the world, around 75% we have the share. The next slide, please. This is some largest sample of the carbon capture. Around they installed next to the coal-fired thermal plant. They can produce 5,000 tons per day. Next slide, please. So in order to capture the CO2, there's some kind of cleaning of the emission will be required. We also have air quality control system from the SGR and FGD and in order to capture the CO2. This also we can provide in this summer in South Africa, I think. So next slide, please. As a summary, towards the vision of South Africa, Mitsubishi Heavy Industries are ready to support the energy transition for entire energy supply chain and as a leader of in the field of decarbonization. And we contribute to the decarbonization in South Africa with our extended state-of-art technology. Thank you for your listening.
Ms. Natalie Davis, the Senior Manager from Itoshu, please may I ask you to make your way to the stage.
Good morning, His Excellency. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe a wise woman learns from the mistakes of men. So can I please ask in advance that the slides please be controlled on my behalf? Let me firstly start off by introducing myself. I am Natalie Davis, and I'm a representative of Itochu Corporation, Johannesburg. I am the Senior Manager of the Chemical Trading Division, as well as a member of the Business Development Team. Next slide, please. Looking at a glance at who Itochu Corporation is. Itochu Corporation is one of the leading Japanese trading and investment companies, known as a Soga in Japan. Our history dates back to the 1800s, when our founder, Chubei Ito, first commenced with linen trading. Our credo is centered on a three-way satisfaction: good for the buyer, good for the seller, and good for society. As part of our midterm management plan, ITOCHU has bravely and ambitiously committed to reduce our CO2 emissions to net zero by 2040. Next slide, please. Over the last 160 years of our existence, ITOCHU has evolved from humble beginnings to 8 division companies. These division companies are currently engaged in domestic trading, import and export to overseas markets, including investments both locally in Japan and worldwide. Next slide, please. ITOCHU's footprint has also grown significantly over the years. We have 6 offices in Japan and 86 offices worldwide. 6 of these are based in sub-Saharan Africa. Johannesburg is the headquarters for the African region. Next slide, please. Looking at our contribution and our activities in the hydrogen and ammonia value chain. In addition to our activities, ITOCHU makes valuable contributions as a co-investor, arranges EPC and finance in conjunction with other Japanese companies and organizations. Through our extensive network and experience, we can also unlock logistic optimization and bring marketing offtake capabilities to the table. ITOCHU also invests and contributes in developing ammonia chains, both in the upstream, midstream, as well as the downstream. Next slide, please. As part of our commitment, ITOCHU is proactively engaging and pursuing several projects. Next slide, please. The first project is related to blue ammonia production in Canada, utilizing gas and the CCS process. This is in partnership with Petronas Canada and a local infrastructure company. The aim of this project is to establish one of the world's largest production sites of blue ammonia. The construction of the plant is expected to commence in 2024, and commercial production is slated for 2027. The facility will produce approximately 1 million tons of blue ammonia, which will be exported to Japan mainly for fuel applications. Furthermore, this could also allow for blue fertilizer, which finally could be passed on to the consumer as a cleaner end product. Next slide, please. One of the other projects that ITOCHU is also engaging in is with regards to a hydrogen circular economy from a byproduct from the steel mills. In this project, ITOCHU Nippon Coke Engineering, including CMB, the largest shipping company in Belgium, are in collaboration to establish a local circular economy. The focus is on using coke gas from Nippon's manufacturing process, and of which hydrogen as a byproduct product is derived. This will be used in conjunction with CMB hydrogen internal combustion engine. The CMB engine can also be used in a dual application, which is either hydrogen or diesel fueled. The beauty of this project is that both demand and supply for mobility, port industry, manufacturing, and power generation will be fulfilled locally in the northern island of Kyushu in Japan. This is a project which could be very significant and key to also replicate in South Africa. Next slide, please. The third project is a focus which refers to a case outside of South Africa and is one which is excellently touched on earlier. ITOCHU, together with MITI, Ministry of Economic Trade and Industry in Japan, has shaken hands with Malakoff, who is a major Malaysian IPP player, to embark on a feasibility study. Based on the results of the feasibility study, ITOCHU and Malakoff would consider to develop a green ammonia receiving terminal, as well as the decarbonation of coal-fired plants owned by Malakoff. Other opportunities include bunkering and the supply of ammonia to the nearby industrial complexes. Next slide, please. The fourth project refers to renewable fuel marketing in Japan. In 2020, Itochu, Neste, a Finnish company, including all Nippon Airways ANA, started collaborations of establishing a sustainable aviation fuel supply chain in Japan. Itochu was granted the exclusive rights to supply a SAF at Haneda Airport. This enabled Neste's first SAF delivery to Asia. Through our expanded partnership with Neste, Itochu were able to support other domestic and international airlines, not only at Haneda, but also at Narita too. The Neste SAF is produced from 100% recyclable waste like cooking oil. Next slide, please. The next project refers to retail distribution using fuel cell trucks. Itochu owns 125 Family Mart convenience stores worldwide and more than 17,000 stores in Japan. Family Mart has started to conduct driving tests of a fuel cell truck using CO2-free hydrogen. The truck was developed in collaboration between Isuzu and Toyota. The outcome of these tests will verify the feasibility and expandability of the use of FC trucks using clean hydrogen as a fuel source in the distribution sector. Next slide, please. The last project which Itochu has embarked on, or latest project which Itochu has embarked on, as part of our ongoing commitment to decarbonization and reach our net zero goal, Itochu has invested into new technology and hydrogen fund and a hydrogen fund. The new technology refers to Raven, a USA company which produces close to 100% clean hydrogen derived mainly from municipal solid waste. Raven developed its original combustion-free technology of gasification to produce a synthetic gas of hydrogen and ammonia monoxide. Itochu also invested into a hydrogen fund. This fund is the largest in the world and managed by Hy24 and Iridian. Key Anchor Limited partners includes Air Liquide as well as Total Energies. Limited partners are Itochu, JBIC, Japan Bank for International Corporation, and Lottes Korea. Next slide, please. Our projects in South Africa. Next slide, please. Itochu had the honor of signing an MOU with SASL at TICAD 8, which was held in Tunisia in August in 2022. The MOU entails to jointly study and develop the market and supply chain for green ammonia for use as bunkering fuel, as well as in the power generation sector. Potential offtake of green ammonia, as well as Itochu's potential involvement and participation in SASL's ammonia export-orientated projects. Next slide, please. Areas of collaboration. The first area of collaboration is demand creation, and this would be in the bunkering platform. Itochu is actively playing key roles in forming integrated partnerships in shipbuilding, shipping, production, and bunkering. These are scopes where Itochu and SASL could potentially partner. Itochu will play a key role as a bunkering point. Next slide, please. This slide shows the geographical regions and areas where bunkering is either in a pilot phase, Singapore, or in the planning phase. I stand here today feeling very privileged to be part of a phenomenal Japanese company like Itochu, and proudly as a South African, because recent discussions motivated by Itochu indicates that South Africa could be included in this map as a bunkering point. Next slide, please. Another area of demand creation is ammonia combustion. This is co-firing of coal plants with ammonia. This is another huge opportunity for South Africa's transition landscape. Japanese engineering companies are well advanced in ammonia and hydrogen combustion technologies related to coal and gas thermal plants. This beneficial technology could aid in the transition phase to reduce emissions within a short to medium period and enable South Africa to accomplish a more favorable transition with less impact to the significant coal economy in South Africa, which could allow time to create a fully inclusive society and of all communities. Next slide, please. Further development, as I mentioned, there is a wealth of opportunities that could be unleashed. Sasol and Itochu could be instrumental in the expansion of SAF globally, but not limited to, as there are other opportunities for hydrogen in fuel cell applications, renewable diesel as well. Another huge opportunity exists to create sustainable mobility value chain with Itochu Enix, who currently owns 1,400 gas stations in Japan, on the development and rollout of hydrogen refueling stations in collaboration with South Africa and Sasol. And lastly, ladies and gentlemen, this brings me to the end of our presentation. We are excited and energized with a new frontier, valuable for our partnerships being forged, and many new opportunities being unleashed. Itochu will continue to strive for Sampo-yoshi, which is good for the buyer, good for the seller, and good for society. We will stay true to our merchant spirit, seeking and multiplying opportunities. We will work to achieve and fulfill each one of our missions, endeavoring to leave behind a legacy of a nurtured, preserved, sustainable, thriving, and peaceful planet for many more generations to come. Thank you.
Our penultimate speaker, as we're aware of time, is Mr. Naoki Saida from the MUFG Bank.
His Excellency, guests, thank you very much for the opportunity. Today I'm very excited to witness the collaboration that we've seen over the last 2 days. And I believe the collaboration will definitely bring the new society, the new green hydrogen society for South Africa, but Africa and Japan needs to play a role. And as you can see, our partners here as a speaker has been providing you with a good message. I'm Naoki Saida, Deputy Chief, Red Johannesburg Representative Office, MUFG Bank. Let me start my presentation by introduction of our bank. Next slide, please. So our MUFG, Mitsubishi UFJ Financial Group, is one of the world's largest and leading financial groups headquartered in Tokyo, Japan, with total asset size of US dollar 3.1 trillion and market cap of US dollar 80 billion. Under MUFG, as you can see, we have MUFG Bank in the middle. As commercial banking, that's where I come from, and MUFG Securities, Mitsubishi UFJ Trust and Banking. In 2008, we made a substantial investment in Morgan Stanley, which has enabled us to expand our overseas business portfolio. Over the last few years, we have developed a successful commercial banking platform encompassing the Asian region via investment commercial banks in 4 countries, namely Vietnam, Thailand, Philippines, and Indonesia. Next slide, please. MUFG has a global network with approximately 2,400 locations in more than 50 countries. The group has about 170,000 employees, and our history goes back more than 360 years. The group aims to be the world's most trusted financial group. Through close collaboration among our operating companies and flexibly respond to all of the financial needs of our customers, serving society and fostering shared and sustainable growth for the better world. We pride ourselves on our ability to build and maintain long-term relationships with our customers, promote and real economic growth, and contribute to capital markets. Next slide, please. Now, utilizing the next 2 slides, I will update on our progress on carbon neutrality and engagement. We defined our purpose as being committed to empowering a brighter future. I believe that committing to help solve the environmental and social issues facing the world today is a great responsibility for financial institutions. Since pledging to achieve carbon neutrality by 2050 in May 2021, we have accelerated our efforts to tackle the climate change. We became the first Japanese bank to commit to achieving net zero GHG emissions in its financing portfolio, and first Japanese financial institution to join the Net Zero Banking Alliance, NZBA, an industry-led alliance consented by the United Nations, and was appointed as the steering group of NZBA, the only representative from Japan. Our commitment to NZBA is to bring the emissions of our operations to net zero by 2030 and the emissions of our entire portfolio by 2050. Our efforts will be focused not only in Japan, but on a global basis. Next slide, please. We believe that engagement, commitment, and persistence are the keys to achieving a carbon neutral society. Advancing transition steadily through customer engagement is critical. The slide shows our progress in our initiatives of engagement with our customer to achieve the carbon neutrality goals and align with the Paris Agreement. It is clear that divestment is not a solution, as there is no assurance that actual emissions will decrease, while divestment may reduce our financed emissions. It is conceivable that the buyer may have less ambition with respect to net zero, and the emissions may even increase as a result. For this reason, we believe we have the responsibility to engage with our customers in all sectors and regions and finance their transition journey. This is the only credible way to deliver just an ordinary transition. Accompanying with our customers on their journey to carbon neutrality through engagement is our core principle throughout MUFG. Also, technological innovation is essential for emissions reductions, i.e. the green hydrogen society. Together with various collaborations from both the public and private sectors, we intend to consider how the society can mobilize financing for such innovations. Next slide, please. In the next few slides, I will demonstrate our strengths in our product capabilities, which I believe will place ourselves in a better position to meet carbon neutrality and engagement. MUFG is the market leader in project finance, as you can see on the slide. We have played an important role in financing some of the world's most significant projects, which are still having a positive impact to our society today. Next slide, please. MUFG has set up a global ECA team in 2010, dedicated in teams in 7 countries across the world to work as one team to cover the facilitate and transactions for our valued customers with all the ECAs and FDI MDBs globally. Since then, we maintain as the top financial institutions and a market leader delivering ECA finance. Next slide. Blended finance is the new structured finance which we are currently strongly promoting, especially in Africa and developing countries. Delivering long-term, competitively priced financing from new sources of capital in line with our commitment to sustainable finance. We're here for you. Next slide, please. Now, talking about Africa. MUFG in Africa go back 1926. We opened our first branch in Alexandria, Egypt. Then Johannesburg office in 1961. We had several movements since then, but now we have 2 offices in Cairo and in Johannesburg, where I am now. MUFG Africa covers Africa from 3 branches in London, Paris, and Dubai, with 2 offices based in Africa. We have MOUs and entered into partnership with several financial institutions and investment authorities in several countries to make ourselves more accessible to Africa and our valued customers. MUFG is bridging the gap between African and Japanese business. Next slide, please. So this is the short footprint that we have in Africa till date, providing barriers of trade, structured finance to corporate financing, and lately the blended finance. Next slide, please. So I'm gonna be briefly touch upon our views on the hydrogen society and the future. Hydrogen, as a fact, as you know, is the lightest and most abundant element in the world, invisible, odorless, and a highly reactive gas. Hydrogen can be a transport fuel, a source of industrial heat, and chemical feedstock. Hydrogen is a replacement for fossil fuels given wide range of usage. Hence, we believe hydrogen is becoming an essential mechanism for decarbonization to meet net zero by 2050. On top right of the slide shows the expected growth of global hydrogen market by usage. And from various of sources, demand for hydrogen could reach to 546 million tons by 2050, implying a CAGR of 6.4% throughout, given current demand is only 74 million tons. We have engagement with various regulators and developers across the world, and the policy landscape globally shows a genuine commitment to develop a hydrogen economy around the world. But each country has different focus, depending on the role it plays in the global market and the particular sectors of the economy where hydrogen could play a role. Hence, what will be the likelihood of scenario in the future? If the demand is there and globally shows a genuine commitment with technology advancing, we would expect the electrolyzer cost reduction and green electricity price to fall significantly, which I believe the two concerns which we are yet to accomplish and showcase the feasibility and bankability of a hydrogen society and the future. But are we seeing a development? So that gets out to my conclusion. Next slide, please. For my presentation today with key 5 messages that I wanted to deliver. MEFG values steps to carbon neutrality and without customer engagement, achieve carbon neutrality. MEFG supports all the low carbon financing and house views hydrogen as the key element of energy transition. MEFG's global network will enable us to access to key stakeholders across the hydrogen value chain. MEFG is the leader in structured finance in the world, providing various essential products from advisory to execution to monitoring. Finally, but not least, MEFG's depth of breadth of expertise and resources as one of the largest financial institutions in the world. Next slide, please. So thank you. This will end. This is the last slide, which we have witnessed about MOU between SASO and Itochu in the recent TICAD 8 in Tunis, where we have started our endeavor in developing and supporting achieve the green hydrogen society in South Africa. We believe the green hydrogen society will bring new future to South Africa and Africa. And with strong ties with Japan, I'm sure will bring better future to the society, and MEFG will deliver such relationship and bridge the gap between Japan and Africa and South Africa. Hence, let's have our hands together. After this call, we have a lot of Japanese manufacturer, Sogo Shoshas in the room. Let's have our hands together, and this is just only the beginning. Thank you.
Thank you. Our final speaker, Professor Kenichi Aika from the Green Ammonia Research Center.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and Ms. Coordinator. Let me explain briefly our SATREPS program called Development of New Ammonia Synthesis System Using Renewable Energy and Hydrogen, started between Northwest University, Professor Basarov over there, and our college. I am drinking Cape Wine Rouge red wine every night. It's cost just $5, but very tasty. Japanese red wine at the right-hand side in a similar level cost 4 times more expensive. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. No. The back. Yes. Solar power cost ratio might be compared with those wine costs. South Africa could produce solar energy with the cost of 1/4 of that in Japan, because their solar irradiation density is 4 times higher than in Japan. They could produce cheapest CO2-free ammonia. Next slide, please. 2017 February, Japanese government research program SIP Energy Carrier had a workshop with South African in Tokyo. We met Northwest University people and other delegations there. The information exchange started there. I was the deputy director of SIP Energy Carrier Program. Next, please. Every country has started carbon neutral at 2015. Republic South Africa will develop her green hydrogen and ammonia, which will be used for chemicals, fertilizer, fuel. Japan intends to import green ammonia, which shall be used for fuel and chemicals. Next slide, please. We can see a plan in the hydrogen roadmap of South Africa. Green hydrogen and ammonia produced at the Northern Cape area is transported to Eastern Industrial Area to convert brown chemicals to green chemicals, and of course to fertilizer or fuels. Next slide, please. Japan has started to import blue ammonia from Saudi Arabia, UAE, Australia, Canada, and USA. Last month, Mitsubishi Trading Company announced to invest new ammonia production facility, 10 million ton production a year size in Texas. The size is 10 times more than today's prevailing size in Japan. But these are all blue ammonia. We must develop green ammonia in the future. Next slide, please. Remarkable Japanese activity was successful use of ammonia at power plant. Ammonia burns for 2 weeks without increasing NOx in a huge plant, 156 megawatt size plant in 2017. This event moved our government to add ammonia on our hydrogen roadmap. Next, please. This spring, 2 green petrochemical industrial transformation plans are shown. One is hydrogen pipeline network in Kawasaki metropolitan area. The other is ammonia pipeline network at Petro complex in Yamaguchi prefecture. Ammonia tanker can access there. Next slide, please. Now, green ammonia production and consumption technology looks like to be well prepared, but the costs are still high. We expect some fund from outside. World ESG Fund might invest in any effective technology. Next slide, please. But the investor wants to have some criteria of new technology. The criteria is the cost and the carbon footprint of ammonia fuel. The two factors are related in trade-off way. Brown ammonia is cheap but emits much CO2. Blue ammonia is intermediate, and the cost of green ammonia is still high. Our program target is to reduce both cost and carbon footprint of green ammonia. This is a diagram of our new ammonia system, which works effectively in South African land. The major green power is solar at North Cape. The practical situation will be studied by South African academia. Water electricity will be developed in HISA, Northwest University, by Professor Basarov's group. New ammonia synthesis catalyst and the reactor will be developed by Japanese universities. New ammonia separation material and system will be developed in Japanese universities. Next slide, please. This is a study plan and relation between institutions. We have 4 outputs corresponding to the system diagram. First one is hydrogen production. Second one is ammonia synthesis. The third, ammonia separation. Fourth, system integration. 6 Japanese universities cooperate with Kosen Numazu, and HISA, Northwest University, also cooperate with every aspect, but they lead the water electrolysis. Next slide, please. HISA Northwest University is highly evaluated for their electrolysis technology. The laboratories are well equipped, but JICA will supply advanced equipment for their further effort. Next slide, please. We visited last April and this month and found their advanced technologies. Next slide, please. Japanese universities have many experiences to produce effective catalysts and systems through SIP Energy Carrier Program. Next slide, please. The key technology of ammonia synthesis system is separation. So far, ammonia is quenched to minus 33 degrees, and recycled gas is heated again to 400 degrees. The heat loss is enormous. The separation material works at 200 degrees can save the system energy much. Next slide, please. New material for ammonia separation have been developed by Japanese universities. This time, the better material will be developed. This is an example of ammonia absorption diagram as a function of pressure. Next slide, please. Northwest University have prepared space for the bench plant of ammonia synthesis system. Next slide, please. The program just started this month. The 5 years program is divided to 3. This is a budget from JICA, totally 300 million yen. The experimental apparatus is supplied at early stage of the program to Northwest University. Next slide, please. The third term, a bench plant starts working. The data accumulated there will be used for commercial process after finishing the program. The Sasol is added in the plan. South African and Japanese firm will take part in ammonia value chain in this stage. Next slide, please. These are photos when we visited Northwest University last April. The information exchange has started. Next slide, please. This is the last one. This month, Springer publishes new book titled CO2-Free Ammonia as an Energy Carrier, Japan's Insight, edited Professor Kobayashi and me. This contains 49 chapters and 700 pages, mostly from the result of SIP Energy Carrier. This contains a lot of ammonia burning technology. We hope the book promotes the world advances in green ammonia study. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Professor. Thank you to all our panelists for really adding to this discussion in this country session about furthering collaboration between South Africa and Japan on hydrogen and ammonia. We don't have time for a Q&A, but I'd suggest that if you'd like to interact with any of the panelists, you stay behind in the room just before we go to the next session. Good morning.